Hi everybody, it is morning. I've got my sound on. This is a challenge, let's be honest. Waking up and being ready to be on camera by 8 is not something I've ever had to do before. I have new respect for Matt Lauer and the Good Morning America and Today Show teams. I like rolled out of bed. I was like, my eyes. And then I realized, oh yeah, it's you guys. No big deal. No big deal. We get to hang out together, and it doesn't matter if I've successfully got mascara on. It doesn't matter if my hair looks right, which it absolutely doesn't because I slept on it and I didn't do anything new to it. It's just morning. And that's how we start all of our days. We wake up, we kind of pinch ourselves awake, and we try to put forth the best person that we have available, and we get started. So welcome. For those who don't know me, I'm Julie Bogart. I'm the owner of Brave Writer, which is a company that teaches writing and language arts to homeschooling families and also non-homeschooling families. We have a growing population of people who participate in our programs, our classes, and in this very homeschool community. I've noticed on Facebook that a lot of the comments, a percentage of them anyway, come from homeschool parents who don't even have children at home anymore. There is something about the community of being a member. It's like a member of the homeschool tribe. It's like a sorority, only the good kind. Well, sometimes it's not even always the good kind, but we want it to be. Having accomplished this thing, whether it was for a year or 20 years, called Stay Home All Day, Every Day with Your Children and Be the Primary Responsible Party for Their Education, is a rite of passage into this community. And the people who have experienced that have a certain bond because it's your own bond. Before we read, I'm going to tell you a funny story. I remember way back, so my kids were very young, probably Katrin wasn't even born yet, and there was a little vacation Bible school that my kids went to in the summer, and I had a bunch of friends who also had their kids go there, and we were homeschoolers, and we showed up at this thing where you drop your children off in the morning. And interestingly, I still had a baby and a toddler, so I was only dropping off like the older two. But I remember we all stood there after our older kids had run off into this space where other people were going to be in charge of them. And we all had this like weird feeling of liberation. Like, oh my gosh. In my case, I was like, oh, only two children. That's so liberating. And then we realized that that's what it was like to have kids in school. And we had never experienced it. I had never experienced it. It's not something I had ever done. I had never experienced a feeling of relief like, oh, my children are not with me. And now I have some space to just think. And here, I felt this way while still having a baby and a toddler. Like, imagine what that must have felt like for my friends who literally didn't have children around. When you take on this 100% monumental task of homeschooling your children, you're going against the flow of the culture. Right now, there's an entire community of people experiencing relief because their children have left and they can just actually wake up and go make coffee. And they may have jobs. I'm not saying that everybody's sitting around just relaxing after their kids are gone. They run off to work and they deal with the headaches and pressures of that experience. But they don't have to deal with the needs of children. And you do that every day. Every day you signed up, you volunteer, you roll out of bed, and it's time to do it again. And it's different than any other experience. And so, kudos to you and me and all of us for doing it. And that's why we show up every day here, so we can read and take a moment and breathe. Let's do that again. Let's breathe. And get our heads on straight so we can face the day with a little bit of optimism, a little bit of joy, a little bit of mojo, okay? And I say all that knowing full well what day 6 is in a gracious space. So if you are reading this book with me this month, A Gracious Space by Julie Bogart, Daily Reflections to sustain your homeschooling commitment, you know what's coming because you've looked ahead. Maybe you've already read the essay. This is one of the short ones, but it's heartfelt. Day 6, no shame on you. In the land of human beings, beware those who shame you for your failings, who urge greater fidelity to a system to cure what ails you rather than greater trust in yourself. Beware those who put institutions ahead of persons, and whose idealism tempts you to pretend away your problems and distresses in favor of a sparkling, seductive image. There's no inoculation against life. Be as genuine as you can. Try with the resources you have. Open your mind to new solutions. And trust that you know what's best for you and your family more than anyone else does. Take your time. Be wary of unsolicited advice, and hold fast to your commitment to peace and well-being over ideology. I'm sending you love across the miles in case you feel alone in your choices and dilemmas. I'm going to read it one more time. It's very short, and I feel like some people are just getting here. And I like this one. It's short. It's almost like it reads like an affirmation. And when I wrote it, I'll be honest, I was writing it to me. Because sometimes I got to write stuff that helps me. So here we go, one more time. Day 6, no shame on you. In the land of human beings, beware those who shame you for your failings, who urge greater fidelity to a system to cure what ails you rather than greater trust for yourself. Beware those who put institutions ahead of persons, and whose idealism tempts you to pretend away your problems and distresses in favor of a sparkling, seductive image. There's no inoculation against life. Be as genuine as you can. Try with the resources you already have. Open your mind to new solutions, and trust that you know what's best for you and your family more than anyone else does. Take your time. Take your time. Be wary of unsolicited advice, and hold fast to your commitment to peace and well-being over ideology. Sending love across the miles in case you feel alone in your choices and dilemmas. Quote of the day. Sometimes life is too hard to be alone, and sometimes life is too good to be alone. You know who said that? Elizabeth Gilbert. Sustaining thought. There is nothing shameful about loving your children, teaching them your values, holding them close. You know what's best, what brings your family peace and well-being, regardless of what others say. That one's worth another deep breath, don't you think? Good morning, Mary. Mary mentions that this essay in A Gracious Space, fits well with the permission slip. Yesterday on Facebook, you can still find it if you go look, we posted a link to a free for you digital download that is a permission slip that is letting you know that you get to be in charge of your own homeschool. And guess who signs it? You do. You do. You are making a commitment to yourself. It's not me giving you permission. It's you learning how to give yourself permission. So if you want one, you can download it for free, share it with friends. But the point is this. There's no shame here. Nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody knows what they're doing. Even the veteran homeschoolers. Do you know how many parents who've been homeschooling for 15 and 20 years call me for advice, who have children successfully through college, married and raising their own children, and they're like, but I still got 5 more and I don't know what to do with them. Or, yeah, even though my kids have made it and they're successful adult human beings, I think I really bungled writing, so I really want to get it right this time. Nobody knows what they're doing. You don't get off this moving sidewalk until all the chicks are out of the nest. And then, do you know what you do? You say, oh shoot, when I was homeschooling, I wish I had known about this. That's what happens. That happens to all of us. And here's why. Learning. Learning is a process. It never ends. You never come to that point where you know exactly that you've covered all the material, that you've invested deeply enough, that you've been exposed to the right options. You know, one of the most challenging things you'll face is the feeling that one choice is going to exclude another equally valuable choice. If I put my child in school and it looks like the right idea, then I'm now saying no to homeschool. If I choose to follow a classical education, then I really cannot be called an unschooler. If I decide that I don't like Charlotte Mason and I'm going to cherry pick, what magic in Charlotte Mason am I going to miss? Do you relate to any of these? I relate to every single one. I feel like I did them all. And there's a certain joy in that, in the retrospection. Like, oh, well, I kind of know what it feels like to be a well-trained mind mom for, a couple of years. I know what unschooling feels like because we jumped all the way in. I have some sense of what a mixture of public school and homeschool is. But you know what that does? It robs me of getting to be an expert in any one of them because I never bought in for the full 20 years that you're supposed to buy in. Or I would start them late and then I would feel like the club had already formed and I wasn't a meaningful member because, heck, I had only been doing it for a year or two. Do you know that feeling? Do you know the feeling like I didn't learn the right lessons you're supposed to learn when you first start out with X viewpoint? And now I'm trying to catch up and I don't really have a meaningful voice. No one will let me play. I just want to share what I'm learning. And it's like, oh, well, you can't really share. Because, you don't do it with all 5 kids, and you haven't been doing it since they were all in kindergarten. Know that feeling? It's frustrating. Why can't you just get in and say, hey, I just started with Thomas Edison Education, or whatever that one is. I don't even know what it is. Thomas Jefferson, right? Like, why can't you just jump in and say, hey, I just showed up in Brave Rider, and this is what I did. Well, in Brave Rider you can, because that's totally down with me. I'm all about learning. And sometimes what happens is people who are new, they can show you things you can't see when you're old. Hint. Guess how we know this is true? Children. Aren't you the old, jaded, cynical adult? And your child comes along with wide-eyed wonder over a pill bug, and suddenly pill bugs are the most amazing things you've ever seen? Well, they're not the old, jaded, cynical expert. They're coming with new, fresh experience. They share with you what it's like to not have it figured out on the planet. Well, let's bring some of that energy into our homeschool experiences. First-year homeschoolers have things to teach us, jaded, old, 20-year veterans. They bring in a wide-eyed wonder. They remind us of our own nervousness. They're willing to take some risks that we're not willing to take. And they're also suspicious of some of the risks we've been taking, and maybe with good reason. We need each other. We need a full-bodied, complete spectrum of home educators who have access to each other's interiors, not just the image we're trying to project to feel that we are representing homeschooling well to the human race. Like our way of being in the world as a homeschooler is the final hinge on which the right and privilege to homeschool rests. No shame on you. No shame on you. And some of you today have massive decisions to make. And I know that. And you don't know who to talk to about them. You know, you're about to start chemo. Can you homeschool and do chemo? Can you? Would you like to? How big's your team? Who's your posse? Who's got your back? Who's making your meals? What are your kids doing? What do they need? How are they feeling about this insecure moment? Does everyone want to pull in, or do people want to separate and spread out? Does there need to be a safe cocoon just for you? Or do you need everybody's participation? No one can answer that question for a woman facing chemotherapy. That's a personal decision, and there's no right or wrong, and you're not a failure for deciding you can't do both homeschool and chemotherapy. You're also not a failure for saying we're not going to do homeschool, but no one's going to school either. We're just going to do chemo for a while. Like, you get to decide that. And every single one of those isn't going to be ideal because you have cancer. Know what I'm saying? So this is true because life is relentless. Do you remember what I just read? I'm just going to read that sentence again. There's no inoculation against life. Nothing protects us from life. If you were born in Aleppo, Syria, you cannot pray your way out of bombs dropping. Sure, there's a ceasefire now. Do you know what a ceasefire means? It means more bombs right before the ceasefire. You can't pray your way out of that. You can't hope your way out of that. And most of them can't leave. If that's true for them, how is that not also true for us who needed it not to rain today? Everybody is dealing with something. Everyone. And you can't strategize, plan, figure it out without some doubt and without some fallout from the circumstances of life that come for all of us. You can ask for companionship. You can use your spiritual life as a resource to help you cope, to help you be your best self. But we don't escape the pressures and demands of being human. And those pressures and demands follow us right into our homeschools. Right in. We're like, no, I've got this door blocked to protect my beautiful children. They're going to have a different life than I had. Their lives are going to be pure and good, and they're not going to experience the pain I went through as a child, bullied in school. I'm going to create the situation where they love learning. But you can't force love. Love is involuntary. It comes as a reaction to the right set of circumstances befalling a person. And you can have one child in your family right now in love with learning and another child right now who's really not down with the way you do homeschooling. And that can equally be true for both of them. And so where are you in that mix? Well, no shame on you for not knowing what to do about that, for not knowing how to fix that, for not being able to be the right mother that each child of your 5 needs. Because it's not possible. You have varying needs, varying maturity levels, varying learning abilities, and one you. And you're trying with all your heart. I know because you call me, you write me, you post on Facebook. You are trying with all your hearts and with all your minds to be the best version of you can for your kids, given your circumstances right now. So let's do this breathing thing again, because I just keep feeling it well up and I need it. Okay, ready? So we're going to all breathe in together. Ready? Take a deep breath, hold it, and then we're going to do a slow exhale. Ready? Breathe. One more. You're doing it. You're doing it. You woke up this morning, you pinched your cheeks, you shook out your limbs, you put on your good, solid homeschool energy, and you're going to go back in today. You're going to go back into that homemade classroom called your beautiful house or your tiny apartment or your only clean counter in the house is in the kitchen. And you're going to pull out the workbooks, or you're going to get the read aloud, or you're going to make a poetry tea time, or you're going to start with math, because if you don't get it over with in the morning, you'll never get to it. And you're going to smile at one of your kids, and you're going to frown at another, and the dog's going to need to be let out, and you're going to start. And that's how today's going to go. You're going to do the best you can. Okay? Have a great morning and afternoon. Thank you all for joining me. And all the many more who are coming on replay. I'll see you online. Bye, everybody. Mwah. Have a good day.